All right, let's talk about writing linear equations in standard form. Remember that standard form is ax plus by equals c. And so if you look at this first example here, it says slope is 2 and negative 2 comma 2 is a point on the line. And what we want to do is we want to start with point slope form. So remember that point slope form is y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. And so we're going to rewrite this with parentheses for the pieces that we're going to fill in. We'll just leave a gap for the slope. And then we're going to plug in our numbers. So our slope is 2, that goes here. Our y value is positive 2, and our x value is negative 2. And when we clean this up, what we have is y minus 2 equals 2 times x, and then you see here we have this double negative, right? So this is x plus 2. Now, once we have our equation in point slope form, what we want to do next is we want to distribute and solve for y so that we can get the equation in slope intercept form. So we're going to distribute here. So we're going to say, okay, 2 times x, that's 2x, and then 2 times 2, that's 4. And so we have now y minus 2 equals 2x plus 4. And to solve for y, all we have to do is add 2 to both sides. And we get the equation y equals 2x plus 6. And this is the linear equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so right here, this is point slope. And right here, this is slope-intercept. But we want our equation to be in standard form. So if you notice the difference between slope-intercept and standard form is basically the x is on the other side. So in slope-intercept, the x is on the left-hand side of the equation, right after the equal sign. And in standard form, the x term is the first term on the left-hand side of the equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this 2x to the other side of the equation. We're just going to take it and move it here. Remember the rule, whenever you move a term from one side of an equation to the other, you have to change its sign. So when I move positive 2x to the left side of the equation, it becomes negative 2x. Everything else keeps its own sign. So negative 2x plus y equals 6. Now, this is in the proper order, ax plus by equals c. However, when you're writing standard form, your a value, which is the coefficient for x, should always be positive. So since this is not positive, it's a negative 2, what we want to do is, if you think about it this way, multiply the entire equation by negative 1. And all that really does is change the sign for everything. So then negative 2x becomes positive 2x, positive y becomes negative y, and positive 6 becomes negative 6. So this here is our equation in standard form. All right, so let's take a look at this next example here. Let me get this out of the way. So we have here slope is 5 and our point is negative 2 comma 4. So we're going to say, okay, y minus, let's put a parentheses for y1, equals our slope 5 times x minus and a parentheses for x1. And then let's go ahead and put these points in. Our y value is 4 and our x value is negative 2. When we clean this up, we get y minus 4 equals 5 times x plus 2. So now, to solve for y and put this in slope-intercept form, we just have to get rid of this negative 4. Oops, sorry, I skipped. First, we have to distribute. So 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 2 is 10. And we bring down the rest of this equation. Now, we can get rid of this negative 4. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. And we get y equals 5x plus 14. So once again, this is in slope-intercept form, and we need to put it in standard form, which means we need to move our x, our 5x, from the right side of the equation to the left side. And when we do that, it changes from a positive 5x to a negative 5x. So we have negative 5x plus y equals 14. And again, we don't want our a value, which is the coefficient for x, to be negative, so we're going to multiply the entire equation by -1. And basically, again, what that means is you're changing the sign for everything. So negative 5x becomes positive 5x, positive y becomes negative y, and positive 14 becomes negative 14. And so here is our equation in standard form. All right, a few more examples. So what if they don't give us a slope and they give us 2 points instead? So our first step is going to be what? Our first step is going to be to use slope formula. Remember, slope formula is slope equals y2. You saw that? I made a mistake there. There, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so I'm going to use parentheses here. And I'm going to label this here x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'm going to plug these in. So y2 is 4 minus y1 is -1, and x2 is 0 minus x1 is -2. And so I see some double negatives here. So this is actually 4 plus 1, which equals 5. And this is 0 plus 2, which equals 2. So my slope here is 5 over 2. Let me just double check and make sure. 4 minus -1 is 5, and 0 minus -2 is 2. I did this correct. So my slope is 5 over 2. So let's go ahead and plug this in to our point slope form. So y minus y1 equals our slope 5 over 2 times x minus x1. And so I need to pick a slope here. I'm gonna pick one of these points. So I'm gonna pick 0, 4. Okay. So my y value is 4, and my x value is 0. So when I clean this up, I have y minus 4 equals 5 over 2 times, what's x minus 0? It's just x, right? So I actually don't even need that parentheses here. I could just put x right there. And the only thing I need to do here in order to put this in slope-intercept form is get rid of this 4. So I need to add 4 to both sides. So now this gives me y equals 5 over 2x plus 4. Okay? Now that's in slope-intercept form, and I want to put this into standard form. So I need to take positive 5 over 2x, and I need to move it here. This makes it a negative 5 over 2x plus y equals 4. Now, there's a problem here. Besides the fact that our a value is negative, it's also a fraction, and we don't want it to be a fraction. So, if you remember our lesson on eliminating fractions or clearing fractions, what we need to do is multiply this entire equation by the common denominator, which in this case is 2. And since we need to change this to positive, I'm going to multiply the entire equation by -2. So that'll take care of both at the same time. So here, -2 times -5 over 2 is positive 5x. -2 times y is -2y. And -2 times 4 is -8. So this is my equation in standard form. All right, next example. Rolling on. So I'm going to jump right into it. x1, y1, x2, y2. First, we're going to do our slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we get here parentheses, negative 6 minus 2 over 3 minus 5. So negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8, and 3 minus 5 is negative 2, and negative 8 minus 2 is positive 4. So that's our slope. So we go into our point slope form, and we're going to say y minus y1 equals our slope 4 times x minus x1, and let's pick a point here. Let's go with 5, 2. So my y value is 2. My x value is 5. We're going to clean this up. We get y minus 2 equals 4 times x minus 5. And our next step, we want to convert this to slope-intercept, so we're going to distribute. We get 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Bring down the rest of this. And then we want to eliminate this negative 2, so we're going to add 2 to both sides. And we get the equation in slope-intercept form, y equals 4x minus 18. Again, we want to convert this to standard form, so we need to move 4x from the right to the left. It's positive, so it's going to change now to negative. This becomes negative 4x plus y equals negative 18. And again, I do not want my a value to be negative, so I'm going to multiply the entire equation by negative 1, which changes the sign for everything. So negative 4x becomes positive 4x, positive y becomes negative y, and negative 18 becomes positive 18. And this is my linear equation in standard form. All right, 2 more examples. Word problems, yeah. So a tank is filling up with water at a rate of 3 gallons per minute. The tank already has 3 gallons in it before it started being filled. Okay, so what's our slope in this situation? Well, it's at a rate of 3 gallons per minute. So our slope is 3. And the tank already had 3 gallons in it before it started being filled. So if you think of any of these things where they're talking about something happening, right, over time, the before means no time has passed, right? So that's 0 minutes. So that means we have as our point on this line 0 minutes, 3 gallons already in there. So 0, 3. So we use that concept to write our equation in point slope form. So y minus y1, which is 3, equals our slope 3 times x minus x1 here, which is 0. All right, next we want to convert this into slope-intercept form, so we distribute. First off, I hope you realize, right, basically this is really silly. X minus 0 is x, and 3 times x is 3x, right? So we really didn't have to do much there. So we have y minus 3 equals 3x. To convert this to slope-intercept, I'm just going to add 3 to both sides. And my equation is y equals 3x plus 3. Then finally, to put this into standard form, again, we want to move our x term from the right side to the left. It changes sign, so this becomes negative 3x plus y equals 3. And we don't want our a term to be negative, so we are going to multiply the entire equation by negative 1. So this gives us a positive 3x minus y equals negative 3. And so in the case for these, this is all you need to do, because what the question is asking you is to write a linear equation in standard form that models the situation. So right here, this is your linear equation in standard form that models this situation. Okay, one more example, which is over here. A hot tub filled with 440 gallons of water is being drained. After 1.4 hours, the amount of water had decreased to 320 gallons, right? So here, they don't give us a slope, but we can figure it out. Again, the tub was already filled with 440 gallons of water before they started draining it. So that means at minute 0, there are 440 gallons, okay? Then they tell us after 1.5 hours, there are 320. So this is our second point. All right, so we need a slope. So our next thing is to do our slope formula. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So we've got here our parentheses. Y2 is 320 minus y1 is 440 over x2 is 1.5 minus x1 is 0. I subtract 320 minus 440 is negative 120, and 1.5 minus 0 is 1.5. And then we could divide. So we have negative 120 divided by 1.5 is negative 80. And so that is our slope. And we can go ahead and use this information to write our equation in standard form. First, we're going to start with point slope form. I'm going to start up here. So y minus y1, we need to pick one of these points. I'm going to pick this first one, 0, 440. So y minus 440 equals our slope, negative 80, times x minus 0, which we know x minus 0 is x. So now this looks like y minus 440 equals negative 80x. Okay, next, to solve for y, to put this in slope intercept, I need to add 440 to both sides. And I get y equals negative 80x plus 440. Finally, to put this into standard form, I need to move this negative 80x over to the other side, making it a positive 80x. So we have 80x plus y equals 440. And this is our linear equation in standard form that represents this situation.